Welcome to Wisconsin Weather Experts, or Expert Singular today. I'll be solo here, but of course all of the Fox 6 Weather Experts team have chipped in and chimed in on all of the content that we've got going on today. And it's an interesting day. We're actually going to be monitoring. There will be a live press conference from Canada regarding the Canadian wildfires and their containment and the efforts there. And we will be joining that live. It is scheduled for 12:10, and that would be coming up for you in obviously 8 or 9 minutes, and we'll join that live when it does happen. These things don't always happen as per schedule to the minute, but we'll keep an eye on it and bring it to you as things kick in. Speaking of those wildfires, they are still indeed burning. Nearly 60 fires still burning uncontrolled across Canada, sending smoke across the U.S. The largest fire is in Saskatchewan. It is indeed uncontained. The burned an area now larger than the state of Rhode Island and nearly the size of Delaware, so it's a massive impact there as well. And of course, the impact is being felt in many ways. There's a high school football kids that had to get out there and work out in this smoke because, of course, high school football is back in Wisconsin now that it's August. The air quality alert, though, being extended as it was, many high schoolers had to be paying very close attention and monitoring practices for football teams. One high school student in Seymour, though, was not overly concerned.
I'm not too worried about it. We've been trying to stay hydrated, stay in good shape. So no, I think we'll be ready for it this season.
Good to know that he is excited about the season and feeling confident leading into there. But I'm happy to see that it seems like most of the area teams have kind of taken their precautions to make sure their athletes are in good shape. Seymour, by the way, is about 20 miles west of Green Bay. Yesterday was the first day of practice for some schools across the state. The Seymour football coach says they deal with adversity and will tackle whatever is in front of them. There you go. I love the sports analogy on that one. But sometimes tackling what's in front of you when it comes to air quality like that means, maybe it's a film day, maybe it's an indoor practice day or a weight room day, because being out in those poor conditions can have a significantly diverse effect or negative effect on athletes, because that gets into their lungs, then the smoke and the pollutants goes from your lungs into your bloodstream, and it can be a substantial impact on their ability to perform, not only in the moment, but down the road as well. So hopefully folks and coaches that are smart enough, and I'm sure they all are, took heed of that. Again, waiting on the wildfire presser coming up in just a little bit. We've also got some great information from our very own Tom Walks that was put together regarding the wildfire smoke. Now, I just want to bring this up here on the computer, so give me a second. There we go. Let's look at our nationwide air quality alerts here, and that'll show you that we definitely have improved. In fact, there are only a few pockets out there that have the air quality in place for the immediate area, or like just down in the Chicago area, and certainly nothing beyond that nationwide, which is fantastic indeed. Wildfire smoke, though, at points here in Milwaukee was really thick. Look at this. This was from the 6th. Yeah, what an incredible shot there. And if you're wondering about this kind of stuff, well, if you look at what's happening with the actual particles themselves, very, very small. What's pictured here is a human hair, and then obviously comparing it to some things like sand. And then if you look, that PM 2.5 that is on this graphic, that is what we're referring to when we're talking about these particles that are in the air. And it's so very tiny compared to human hair, so it's easily taken into your lungs, aspirated into your lungs, and that can cause a problem. There are things you can do to be aware of the air quality in and around your home. There are portable air quality, handheld air quality sensors, measures different variables, including PM 2.5 or smoke, as seen there in the lower left of this image. And you can even get them onto stands as well, and you can get all of the data there on an app, and that way you can keep ahead of it. The National Park Service has a scale everyone can refer to, better understand particulate matter and PM 2.5 health advisory levels. You can check that out right there, and this is courtesy of the National Park Service, so you get an idea of how readings are taken, and you can even take your own readings if you are so inclined to get yourself your own reading. Now, let's get focused here on what's going on today. I want to get updated here. I want to get you the latest imagery. So let's click ahead to, there we go, the latest on the air quality alerts. So as we take this here, you'll notice we, as Wisconsinites, are finally not in one. What a wonderful day it is. I know it's not perfect air out there, but it is the best we've done in a while. There is still an air quality alert down into the Chicagoland area. And I don't want to overstate it either. We still have only moderate air quality for a good portion of the Badgerlands. So all the areas shaded in yellow there are in that moderate range, so it's out of the unhealthy categories, but still a bit of a problem. You see on the wildfire surface smoke map there, most of the state is at the very low end of the scale, and that's a huge improvement from the last couple of days when the image looked a lot more like these dark blues, greens, and yellows right across Wisconsin. Now, we'll continue to watch for that in the next little while, and as I said, we may see that return to higher levels as we get into Friday. This is actually not from the Canadian wildfires, but instead from a wildfire burning farther to the south and southwest. Speaking of things to the south and southwest, you see a pocket of thunderstorms in that area around St. Louis right now, and we might see a little bit of activity in our area too later on tonight and into tomorrow. Good news with the flooding headlines for areas out east. They have been stepped down, which is quite nice, but this area will continue to watch for heavy rainfall. The heavy rainfall outlook, as you can see, stretches all the way down and into Florida, and we are starting to get into a period here where the tropical activity is going to get a little bit more potent. We also have a heavy rainfall outlook to our south. That's the same spot that little complex of thunderstorms was, and to our northwest up into parts of North Dakota and Minnesota. And that's also the sweet spot when it comes to some of the severe potential for the day today. We're in the clear, so anything we see today is likely to just be kind of garden variety, maybe some heavier downpours, but there's the bullseye for severe weather impact for today off to our north and northwest. And at the moment, there are some showers and thunderstorms in there, as you can tell, but it doesn't look like it's getting too out of hand. Also have heat headlines, fire headlines all across the west and southwest. Remember, I was talking about some of the fires that are burning in this direction. You've got the fire danger, extreme heat, and we're going to continue to turn that heat up over the next little while. Now, we're expecting 86 today, which is a bump from the last couple of days. Just down the road in St. Louis, 92, but look at that, 104 in El Paso, 117 degrees, the forecast high today for Phoenix. That heat, and of course, the wildfires that are burning in those areas, very problematic, and anything that gets sparked in those areas will rapidly grow because we have such dry, tinder-like conditions in those regions. The Midwest forecast, looking a little hotter today. We'll likely get to 86, 90 down the road in Chicago, 86 as well down the road in Madison, and up the road in Green Bay. Now, if we look at our temperature trend here, what's interesting is this bump. So we go well above average looking ahead to Friday and Saturday as we crack the 90s. But even as we get a little bit of a cooling effect, we only cool down a few degrees. Yeah, it's a half dozen to 8 degrees below what we'll get to Friday, Saturday, but we're still a good 4 degrees above the climate averages. And speaking of that, if we go well out into the long range here with the 8 to 14 day trend that takes us out to about the 20th, turning the corner into the third week or so of August, most of the lower 48, including all of our region, is in that above average range. Now, averages will be trending downward a little bit toward the end of the month, but this would still give us a good stretch of at least low, if not mid 80s throughout the region. So something we'll watch very, very closely indeed. And we continue to watch for that wildfire update, which is scheduled to start in just a few seconds here, but we don't see anybody at the podium, so we will continue to wait. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about our tropical season. I mentioned it in passing with the heavier rainfall threat in the southeast. It's actually been a year. 1 year ago, as of Tuesday, Hurricane Debbie brushed by the Tampa Bay area, flooding Gulfport and setting off what would become a relentless storm season. Debbie was followed by Hurricanes Helene and Milton, each one of those piling on more damage, of course. The Gulfport mayor said 637 homes and apartments, roughly 10% of the city, flooded during Debbie. Debris, of course, cleanup happened pretty quickly. Permitting backlogs, though, and additional storms stalled the reconstruction, so it was kind of a long, drawn-out problem there. And then Gulfport is conducting a stormwater study and vulnerability assessment. They're hoping there to get some more funding, a grant, to upgrade their aging pipes, so drainage pipes, so that they'll have a better chance next time around, because there will likely be a next time around. The results are expected in December. Speaking of hurricane prep, hurricane season is indeed in full swing. In fact, we're getting to what is typically the more active time. And while there is no immediate storm threatening, at least no named storm, the senator in Florida, Rick Scott, says now more than ever, Floridians need to be prepared for the possibility of a hurricane. Rick Scott says along with state, local, and emergency management officials, they met at the Jacksport cruise terminal in Jacksonville on Wednesday. They were then urged, of course, to have their hurricane kits ready, get their evacuation plans ready now. Of course, the officials there say waiting until a hurricane is here is too late.
We've got to get ready. What does that mean? What that means is every family's got to get a plan. The first, it starts with you as an individual. In the middle of the storm, you say, oh gosh, it's really bad now. I want to get out of here. It's too late. They're not going to be able to come and get you. So what you got to do is you got to get a plan, get an evacuation plan, make sure you have every tool you need, 7 days of water, 7 days of food, radio, all the things you need. You can go, the sheriff's got a website. I'm sure the city has a website. Federally, there's a website called ready.gov. That will tell you how to get ready, give you a good checklist of what you ought to do. But get ready, don't take a chance. At the last minute, if you go at the last minute, the hardware stores, everything's going to be sold. The grocery stores, everything's going to be sold. So you cannot wait.
Yes, best to be prepared, right? You definitely need to take heed of that warning. We're not in the hurricane business here in Wisconsin, so to speak, but it's applicable to all different types of severe weather, even winter weather. Obviously, we talk about getting our, emergency kits and things like that together. It's great information right there. We've just had an update on the timing of the Canadian wildfire presser, and it will actually now be at 2:10 p.m. So that's a bit of an adjustment there. So obviously we will not be carrying that live here on the Wisconsin Weather Experts. We will be recording that, and we will play back the pertinent parts of that for you on tomorrow's show. And of course, depending on the schedule here, we'll likely carry it live on Fox 6 and Fox Local, perhaps on the Wisconsin Live Desk as well, which comes right up after this show. All right, we'll be back with more Wisconsin Weather Experts in just 2 minutes. Stick around. All right, welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts right here on Fox Local, on the YouTube site, and of course, our own webpage. So you can find us pretty much everywhere. What we haven't found a lot lately is rain. Let's take a look at the recent information from the Drought Monitor, nationally, regionally, and locally. Obviously, nationally, the big impact is to the west. Parts of the west and southwest have significantly dry areas. Look at the drought in the far southwest here, right along the state line between Arizona and New Mexico. It is just absolutely bone dry, exceptional drought conditions. And I know that's not particularly out of the ordinary, but remember, these stats are taken based on what is the typical for the area. Then it gets a little more patchy off to the east. And if we look at just our area, we do have one tiny piece of dry, just kind of clipping parts of Kenosha County there. But otherwise, we've been doing okay, which is good because it has been a bit of a dry start to August. Meteorologist Stephanie Barrichello has details on our last rain and when we could see some more.
We are heading into a bit of a pattern change over the next couple of days, saying goodbye to our long stretch of sunshine as well as wildfire smoke. That high pressure system is now way out towards the east, and we are going to see a southerly breeze kick in over the next couple of days here in southeast Wisconsin, allowing a lot of that wildfire smoke to drift back up north and stay off towards the east of us. It also means an incoming storm system. We do have a couple of chances for rain in the next couple of days. Actually, starting later this afternoon and evening, could see some Friday morning as well as towards the weekend. And we do need the rain now. Our drought monitor has been great the last couple of weeks. We've made a lot of progress with thanks to a lot of the rain that we saw during the month of July. But our entire August so far, we're 7 days in, has been dry. The last rain we saw in our area was at the end of July. So now I do think we are overdue. We need some back in our area. Of course, not surprising, we are below average for the month so far. Again, barely into the month. We had two big rains in July, though, that were very beneficial. One at the end of the month that was just over an inch. And then earlier in the month, we had a day with 1.5 inches of rainfall. And that, of course, combined with a couple of other rainy days throughout the month, did push us over 4 inches as a total and just below an inch above average. So very beneficial rainfall. Now, June was technically a below average month when it comes to rainfall. May was above, April below, March above. Seems to be a little bit of a trend there. But going forward, we do have a few more chances for rainfall. Once again, we'll be watching later on this afternoon and evening into Friday morning, Sunday into Monday, another round of some showers and thunderstorms looking possible. So just know it's been dry, but we do thankfully have that pattern change and rain on the way.
There you go. Very important pattern change indeed. And we'll keep an eye on the drought monitor and our soggier conditions coming our way, of course, right here in Wisconsin Weather Experts. Coming up, when you think about the Great Lakes, do you think about jellyfish? Yeah, freshwater jellyfish. We'll talk about it right after this. We kick off our final segment of the Wisconsin Weather Experts with something you absolutely do not see every day in the Great Lakes, and it's a jellyfish. I really am learning about this as we speak. The freshwater jellyfish was spotted in Lake Erie by an intern with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. So it was swimming off the coast of Erie, Pennsylvania. Officials say the jellyfish are not native to North America. It's likely it came from China by hitchhiking on some aquatic plants. Fun fact, though, there are some lakes in Wisconsin that actually do have jellyfish. There you go. I learned something right along with you today. I did not know that was a thing. Jellyfish in Wisconsin, if you check it out here, are spotted once in a while. Back in September of 2023, this was in Wapaka County. It's a penny size, it's tiny. It's a penny, maybe quarter-sized little creature there that they're transparent. They have about 300 little tentacles. Instead of stinging human flesh, these jellyfish have a taste for zooplankton. There you go. They are pretty rare, by the way. The DNR has documented them in a couple dozen lakes around the state. We're told water conditions have to be pretty much perfect for them to develop. Fascinating. Freshwater jellyfish right here in Wisconsin. Tiny little things, and I'm glad they don't sting or anything like that. Makes it that much more fun to kind of jump in the lake where they might be and never know what you might spot. Bring along your snorkel and your mask. If you ever have a question like, hey, are there any jellyfish in Wisconsin lakes? I wouldn't have thought to ask, but it's a fascinating answer. If you've got a question that maybe I haven't thought to ask, I would love to hear it. Hit us up on the QR code there, and it will send a message directly to the Fox 6 weather experts, and we will do our best to answer it, even if it's just, a rather mundane question. Like I had one yesterday, which was, where can I find your show? And which was confusing because they answered the QR code, so they were clearly watching the show. But I think they meant back episodes, so we figured it out. Ask me anything. It's a QR code. I mean, be nice and keep it kind. But let's move on here. We're going to go on another fishing trip. This time not jellyfish, but it's actually a beautiful story here. It's a Make-A-Wish fishing trip. Big day out on Pewaukee Lake for a bunch of local kids. 17 of them with Make-A-Wish got the chance to go out on a boat, do a little fishing. How cool is that? Beachside bait and boat in Pewaukee helped make it all possible. A great day to be out on the lake, but it's unfortunate the wildfire smoke was still kind of hanging around. But still, all that being said, the kids and their families say they had a fantastic time. Always fun to get out there and go fishing. It can be a lifetime passion for a lot of kids out there, and hopefully for some of those kids as well. Now, speaking of Pewaukee, we have some sound from that lake.
It means a lot to us. It's a lot of fun to be able to do things that other people with typical children are able to do. This is a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of fun, a beautiful day had. Beautiful organization there, Make-A-Wish, and of course the sponsors there. The kids and their families were also treated, by the way, to a barbecue. How fantastic does that sound? Now, speaking of water and boats, and we're keeping a very close eye on the Atlantic. And just recently, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has kind of stuck by their forecast for an active period, and it does look like things are starting to pick up. If we zoom in a little bit, there's what's left of Dexter. That's that extratropical low, so it's just a regular system at this point, fizzling out over the North Atlantic. This is what we call an area of investigation, likely for development. There certainly seems to be a couple of spots there. And then there is another little pocket that we're going to keep an eye on, another little system and another little low. So yeah, the Atlantic suddenly has a lot more going on in it than it did maybe a couple of weeks back, and this will be an active period in the days ahead, not only in the main area of the Atlantic, but right here. The Gulf of Mexico is a typical spot for a lot of the stronger systems toward the latter half of the hurricane season. So as we get deeper into August, September, October, we're likely to see this part of the ocean become a lot more active, in part because the water is very warm there. One of the key ingredients to a hurricane is that surface temperatures have to be at least 80 Fahrenheit, and they're well above that right now and will remain near that even well into the fall. All right, thank you very much once again for joining us for yet another edition of Wisconsin Weather Experts. If you still want more weather, and why wouldn't you, go check out the brand new episode of our all-weather podcast called The Isobar. It is up now on Fox Local and on YouTube. You can check out the views and the exciting chit-chat that we had with our chief meteorologist friends down in Chicago and over in Detroit. Have a fantastic Thursday. See you Friday.